The edges of the galaxy were quiet, almost too quiet. A lone human warship drifted in the darkness between the stars. It did not move. It did not send any signals. It only waited in the void, its silver hull glowing faintly with hidden power. To most, it looked like an abandoned relic, a silent shape lost in deep space. But to the aliens who found it, the ship was a mystery waiting to be solved. The Galactic Council patrol was the first to arrive. Their cruisers circled the human vessel with caution, scanning from a distance. The aliens believed humans were still a young race, reckless and clumsy with technology. They had fought human fleets before, and though humans were stubborn, the Council thought of them as nothing more than upstarts in a galaxy ruled by ancient species. So when they saw a lone human ship drifting unguarded, they felt no fear. They felt only curiosity. "Begin the scan," ordered the alien commander, his voice sharp and full of pride. At once, beams of light swept across the human hull. Energy waves probed deep into the structure, reading its metal layers, its power core, and its hidden systems. At first, the results were confusing. The ship's outer armor was not like anything they had ever seen. It was not just metal. It was layered with something else, something that bent the scanning waves away like water slipping over stone. "Strange," one of the science officers muttered. "Our scanners cannot get a clear reading. The armor is resisting us." The commander frowned. "Increase the power. Break through." The alien ships focused their scanning beams, pushing harder against the silent vessel. The human ship remained still, drifting as if asleep. But inside the alien control rooms, tension began to rise. The stronger their scans became, the more their systems flickered with static. The readings twisted into strange patterns, numbers that made no sense, energy levels that grew and dropped without logic. Then something happened that made the officers fall silent. The human ship scanned back. At first, it was only a flicker on their consoles, a line of energy, a pulse that matched their scanning frequency, bouncing back at them. But it grew stronger, sharper, until the alien sensors began to shake. The human warship was not a sleeping relic. It was watching them. The science officer looked pale. "Commander?" "It is responding to us," the commander laughed, though uneasily. "Impossible. Humans are not capable of this level of technology." "Keep scanning," yet deep inside he felt something cold creep into his chest. He had seen many warships in his life, but never one that answered a scan like a living creature. The probes pushed deeper. This time the aliens glimpsed fragments, massive energy cores, glowing in hidden chambers, weapons far larger than what any human ship was supposed to carry, and a strange lattice of signals that moved like thought through the vessel. It was as if the ship had a mind of its own. Then came the voices. The consoles crackled with broken sounds. At first it seemed like interference, but soon words formed in strange, ancient dialects, human voices speaking from centuries ago. Some were whispers, others were shouts, all overlapping in a storm of echoes. The alien crew clutched their ears as the voices filled their command decks. One officer shouted, "These signals are old." "Too old. They are not from this time." The commander's face hardened. "Explain." "The data shows." "Battles," the officer stammered. "Star systems we do not recognize. Records older than our empire itself. This ship carries memories." It should not be possible. The silence that followed was heavy. None of them wanted to say it, but the thought crept into their minds all the same. If this ship was truly what it seemed, then humanity was not young at all. The human warship remained still, but its presence grew heavier with each passing second. The alien scanners buzzed with warnings. Their systems overheated. It felt as though the ship was testing them, measuring them, peering back into their very hearts. Finally, the commander leaned back in his chair, trying to calm his shaking hands. "Enough," he ordered. "Shut down the scan." But it was too late. The warship stirred. Its engines glowed faintly, like stars waking from slumber. The blue light spread across its hull in perfect lines, humming with ancient power. And though no voice came through their speakers, every alien in the fleet felt the same message pressing into their minds. You should not have looked. The commander stared at the screen, his pride finally breaking. For the first time in his career, he felt true fear. The human ship had revealed only the smallest fraction of its power, but that was enough. The Council fleet now knew they were facing something far beyond their understanding. The scan had begun, but it had awoken something far older, far stronger, and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The fleet of the Galactic Council hung in silence around the drifting human warship. Every ship in formation dimmed its scanners, but the echo of what they had just felt refused to leave their minds. A single vessel, alone in the void, had made them tremble. The officers tried to calm themselves, tried to convince one another it was only a malfunction, an error in the machines. Yet deep down, they all knew the truth. Something had answered them from inside that ship. In the command deck of the lead cruiser, the alien commander sat rigid in his chair, his eyes fixed on the dark figure of the warship on the main screen. It floated with deceptive stillness, its surface smooth and flawless, hiding the storms of energy beneath. It was no longer just a human craft in his eyes. It was something more, something older, something awake. "Resume partial scans," he finally ordered, his voice low but sharp. The officers hesitated. Fear crossed their faces. They remembered the voices, the whispers that had crept through their systems. But orders were orders. Reluctantly, they obeyed. Then pulses of energy stretched once more toward the human vessel. This time, the readings came faster, and they were clearer. The ship's interior lit up on their displays. They saw massive chambers lined with crystals that burned with endless power, conduits that glowed as though liquid stars flowed through them. There were weapons hidden in its spine, great cannons that seemed to drink the energy of space itself. But then came something worse. In the middle of the ship lay a vast chamber, and inside it, something pulsed. It was not machinery. It was not metal. It looked alive. The energy core throbbed like a heart, beating slow and heavy. With every beat, the lights across the hull brightened. One officer gasped. "This is no ordinary reactor. It is alive." The others turned pale. Ships were not supposed to breathe. Ships were not supposed to think. And then the voices returned. At first only whispers, but this time they grew louder, echoing across every console, every comlink. The language was human, but ancient, rough and filled with words no alien translator could fully capture. They spoke of old wars, of broken stars, of empires that no longer existed. Each phrase painted a picture of battles fought before the Council was even born. The commander clenched his fists. His pride screamed at him to deny it, but fear gnawed at his bones. Could humanity have been here before them all? Could the race they mocked as young and reckless have walked among the stars before their ancestors crawled from the mud? His science officer leaned close, whispering, "Commander, the dates we are seeing, they go back tens of thousands of years." The commander's blood ran cold. "That is impossible," but the evidence was there. The warship's core carried the memories of wars older than history. Battles marked on star maps, stars that had long since died, yet still recorded in perfect clarity within the vessel. The fear spread. Officers avoided looking at the screens, their hands trembling over controls. For the first time in their service, they felt like children staring at something they could never understand. One younger officer, his voice shaking, whispered the thought on everyone's mind. "Commander? What if humans are not young at all? What if they are the ones who came first?" The silence that followed was suffocating. No one dared to speak further. Then the ship stirred again. Its engines glowed faintly, like eyes opening in the dark. Waves of energy rippled outward, rattling the alien cruisers. Consoles sparked, alarms blared. The scans had gone too deep, and now the human vessel was no longer pretending to sleep. The commander rose to his feet. His authority faltered, but he tried to hold firm. "All ships, prepare weapons. If it attacks, we strike first." But even as he spoke, he knew it was useless. Their fleet of a dozen cruisers suddenly felt like insects before a giant. The ship pulsed with energy. It was not an attack, not yet, but it was a warning. The air on the alien command deck grew heavy, as though the warship itself was pressing on their lungs. The whispers from the ship turned into a single phrase, echoing clearly across every channel in a voice both human and something greater. "You are not ready," the commander froze. His officers froze. None of them understood fully what it meant, but the fear carved into their hearts was deep. The first fear had taken root. The aliens looked upon the human warship, and for the first time in their proud history, they wondered if their entire understanding of the galaxy was wrong. They wondered if the fragile species they once mocked had always been the giants in the dark, and as the warship's lights dimmed again, as it returned to its quiet drift, the commander realized something chilling. It had not shown them everything. It had only given them a glimpse. If this was just the beginning, what else was hidden in humanity's shadows? The alien fleet drifted in uneasy silence. Their scanners had been reduced to faint pulses now, as if the officers feared that one stronger push might wake the ship again. Still, curiosity gnawed at them. Fear and pride battled inside their hearts. They could not simply leave. The Council would demand answers. And so, with trembling hands, the science officers ran the scans once more, slow, careful and quiet. The readings came back in fragments, broken shards of truth that fit together like pieces of a puzzle. What they revealed made the crew whisper in disbelief. Within the human ship, deeper than any reactor, deeper than any engine, was a vault. Not a vault of gold or treasure, but of knowledge. Star maps layered one over another, stretching across thousands of systems. Some stars no longer existed, their light long dead. Yet here they were, recorded perfectly, frozen in time. "This cannot be right," one officer said, his eyes wide. "These maps predate our own charts. They predate us." The commander's jaw tightened. "You are saying humanity has been charting the stars since before our empires existed?" The officer swallowed. "I am saying this ship has seen wars and worlds that no record in the galaxy remembers. It carries history we never knew." The words sent a shiver across the deck. The Council had always believed themselves to be the great keepers of the galaxy's order, the ancient voices of reason. Yet here, inside a single human ship, was proof that their pride was nothing but dust. Another officer leaned forward, pointing at the data streaming across the screen. "Look closer. These are not only maps. They are records, battles, armadas, entire civilizations erased. And the victors were always the same. Who?" The commander demanded. The officer's voice broke to a whisper. "Humans." The room went cold. The officers exchanged looks of horror, each afraid to say the truth aloud. Humanity was not a young race stumbling into the stars. They were not children to be guided. They were not rebels to be crushed. They were something else, something that had been here before, something that had fought wars older than memory. One younger officer, barely past training, asked the question that haunted them all. If humans fought those wars long ago, then why do they pretend now? Why do they act weak? Why do they let us believe they are young? No one answered. The silence was louder than any words. The ship pulsed again. Its hull glowed faintly, and for a heartbeat the fleet felt the weight of its gaze. Their screens filled with images, not from their scanners, but from the ship itself. Visions of burning worlds, of alien fleets shattered, of human warships, thousands of them, filling the stars like a storm. The officers recoiled, their hearts racing. These were not dreams. These were memories carved into the ship's very bones. One of the science officers whispered, almost in prayer, "This ship is a gravekeeper. It remembers every war humanity has ever fought. And it carries those memories, so no one will forget." The commander's hands trembled against the console. He had seen countless battles, commanded fleets across the stars, but never had he felt so small. He had thought of humanity as reckless children. Now he saw them as something far worse, ancient warriors who had chosen to hide their strength, and that choice terrified him most of all. If humanity had once ruled the stars, why had they fallen silent? Why did they walk among the galaxy now, as if they were nothing but ordinary? Was it shame? Was it mercy? Or were they simply waiting for the right time to rise again? The ship gave no answers. But as its engines stirred faintly once more, as its pulse echoed like a heartbeat through the void, the message was clear. The Council had looked too deep. They had seen too much. The commander stood, his voice heavy. "End the scans now! Shut everything down!" The officers obeyed, cutting the beams and turning their screens dark. But the damage was done. The truth was already burned into their minds. No alien in that fleet would ever look at humanity the same way again. The commander turned to his crew, his eyes hollow with fear. "We leave at once. We report what we saw to the Council." But even as he spoke, he knew the Council would not believe them. And if they did, what then? Would they try to fight humanity, to strike before humans revealed their true strength? Or would they kneel before the old masters of the stars? As the alien cruisers shifted in formation, preparing to retreat, the human warship remained still, silent, patient, watching. The commander shivered as he realized the most terrifying truth of all. The warship had allowed them to see these things. It had chosen to reveal the hidden past, which meant it wanted them afraid, and it had succeeded. The hidden truth was out. Humanity was no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were the shadow behind every story, the ghost in every war, the race that had walked these stars before anyone else. And now the galaxy would never forget it. The alien fleet began to pull back. Engines glowed, formation shifted, and quiet voices filled every command deck. None of them wanted to admit it out loud, but all of them were thinking the same thing. They had seen too much. The human warship was no relic, no abandoned shell. It was alive with secrets, and every secret felt older and heavier than their entire history. But before they could retreat fully, the warship moved. It was not much at first. Just a flicker of light along its spine, a shimmer of energy pulsing down its length. Yet the effect on the alien fleet was instant. Alarms shrieked across their decks, shields activated without commands, and weapons locked into place as if the ships themselves felt danger. The commander of the lead cruiser gritted his teeth. "Steady! Do not fire unless I give the order." No one answered him. Their eyes stayed locked on the screen, where the human vessel was slowly waking. Its engines lit up with a deep blue fire, brighter and brighter, until they glowed like a newborn star. The empty silence of the void was shattered by a low vibration that rattled every alien hull. The warship was no longer pretending to drift. The scans, the probing, the arrogance of the Council, it had tolerated them only up to a point. And now it was awake. The science officer gasped as his console filled with impossible readings. "Commander, space is bending around it. Our instruments cannot track its position. It is rewriting the field itself." The commander's throat tightened. Ships were not supposed to bend reality. Not even the greatest Council dreadnoughts had such power. But this human vessel, this ancient monster wrapped in steel, was twisting the stars as if the galaxy was nothing but paper in its hands. Then came the voice. It did not come through speakers or comms. It came through the walls, through the air, through their very bones. Calm, steady, human in tone, but vast in weight. You should not have looked. The crew froze. Every alien officer sat paralyzed, their minds gripped by that single voice. It was not a threat. It was a truth, spoken like an ancient law of the universe. The commander's pride cracked. His hands shook as he stared at the glowing warship. He wanted to speak, to answer, to demand what this ship truly was. But the words died in his throat. The warship's weapons stirred, not with fire, not with missiles, but with silence. Panels slid open, and deep inside, lights flared like suns. The energy built higher, brighter, until it seemed the ship itself would tear apart. The alien fleet panicked. Orders were shouted, shields raised, weapons primed. Yet they all knew it was hopeless. One officer screamed, "If it fires, we are finished." But the warship did not fire. Instead, it released a wave. A ripple of pure force spread outward, invisible but unstoppable. The alien ships shook as if gripped by unseen hands. Their engines died, their weapons shut down. Consoles sparked, systems went black. One by one, the entire fleet was disabled, without a single shot fired. The silence that followed was worse than any battle. The commander's heart pounded as he stared at the lifeless controls around him. They had been stripped bare in an instant, their mighty fleet reduced to helpless shells. He whispered, barely able to breathe, "It is not fighting us. It is showing us." On the screen, the human warship floated, its hull glowing brighter with every second. It had not destroyed them. It had not even harmed them. It had only reminded them of how small they were. Then, for the first time, a message appeared across their consoles. Not in alien script, not in machine code, but in words written in the common tongue of the galaxy. "We were here before you. We will be here after you. Remember this." The crew sat in silence, staring at the words. None dared to speak. The warship's lights dimmed slowly, its engines calming once more. The ripple faded, and the alien ships flickered back to life, systems crawling back from the edge of nothingness. It had given them back their power, their control, but not their pride. For the first time, the commander lowered his head. He had thought humanity weak. Now he knew better. Humanity was the storm in the dark, the ancient fire hidden behind a mask of youth, and the galaxy had just glimpsed the truth. The awakening had come. The human warship turned, drifting away into the endless black. It did not chase. It did not attack. It simply left, as if the aliens no longer mattered. But the fear remained. Every alien in that fleet knew they would never forget the voice, the wave, the truth carved into their minds. They would carry it back to the Council, and the Council would carry it across the galaxy. And when the galaxy heard, when they all realized what the humans had hidden for so long, there would be only one question left. Had humanity truly gone silent out of mercy? Or were they only waiting to rise again? The alien fleet limped through space, engines running at half strength, shields trembling with unstable energy. None of the ships had been destroyed, yet every officer felt as though they had returned from the grave. They had faced something they could not fight, something that had chosen to let them live. That choice alone was more terrifying than any defeat. On the lead cruiser, silence ruled. The commander sat motionless in his chair, his hands gripping the armrests, as though they were the only anchors keeping him steady. The faces of his officers told the same story, pale, shaken, broken. None dared to speak the name of what they had seen. None dared to call it human, because it felt like something more. Finally, the science officer broke the silence. His voice was dry, cracked with fear. "Commander, we should not bring this report back. If the Council hears of this, they will panic." The commander turned his head slowly. His eyes were hollow, but his voice was sharp. "The Council must know. We cannot hide what we saw. We cannot pretend humanity is weak anymore." The officer lowered his gaze. He wanted to argue, but deep down, he knew the commander was right. The truth could not be buried. It was too big, too heavy, too ancient. The fleet continued its slow retreat, leaving behind the drifting warship that still glowed faintly in the void. But even as it faded from their screens, its presence clung to their hearts like a shadow. Days later, when they finally reached the Council's core systems, the officers were summoned at once. The great chamber of the Council was a circle of towering spires, filled with the leaders of dozens of species. Pride, arrogance, and authority dripped from their every word until they heard the report. The commander stood before them, his voice steady though his chest still trembled. He told them everything. The scan, the voices, the maps of forgotten wars, the wave of power that crippled their fleet without a single shot. The words burned into their systems. "We were here before you. We will be here after you." When he finished, silence fell across the chamber. The councillors looked at one another, their confidence cracking. Some tried to laugh it off, calling it lies, illusions, human tricks. Others whispered in panic, their voices breaking. But no one, not a single one of them, could deny the fear crawling through their veins. At last, one councillor stood and shouted, "If this is true, then humanity is not what we believed. They are not young. They are ancient, more ancient than us all. And if they have chosen to hide their strength, then why? The question struck every heart in the room. Why? Why had humanity walked quietly among the stars, pretending to be fragile, pretending to be new? Why had they let the galaxy mock them, challenge them, fight them, when they could have crushed every empire in an instant? The commander answered with a voice heavy as stone. Because they do not need to prove themselves. They are waiting, watching, and when the time comes, they will rise again. Fear spread through the chamber. No one spoke after that. The decision was unspoken, but it spread like fire. No one would scan a human warship again. No one would dare. But the galaxy is vast, and whispers move faster than light. The tale of the Council fleet spread from system to system, from star to star. It grew with every telling. Some said the warship carried weapons that could tear apart suns. Others swore it held the memories of 1 billion soldiers from wars older than time. A few even claimed the ship itself was alive, the last guardian of an ancient human empire that had never truly died. The truth did not matter anymore. The fear was enough. In the quiet corners of space, smugglers, pirates, and merchants alike began to speak the same words with hushed voices. Do not touch the human ships. Do not scan them. Do not wake them. And in the heart of the Council, rulers sat in silence, their arrogance shattered. For the first time, they looked upon humanity not as rivals, not as children, but as shadows of something far greater. As for humanity, they remained quiet. Their fleets moved as they always had. Their colonies grew. Their leaders spoke no words of conquest. But every alien who looked at them now saw something different. They saw the storm behind the calm, the blade hidden in the smile, the ancient fire disguised as youth. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and far away, in the dark void where no eyes watched, the warship drifted still, its engines faint, its lights dim. Yet deep inside, its heart pulsed like a drumbeat, slow, patient, eternal, waiting. Because humanity was not just present. Humanity was forever. The terrifying lesson was written in the stars, and none would ever forget it.